welcome everyone to this podcast episode. It's not the first podcast episode in this series, but we just changed our platform. So we used to be on Instagram, but now we're on Spotify, and I'm very pleased about that. Our guest for today is Shivani Nair, who's based in Mumbai in India. You might have come across some of her blog pieces, or you might have seen her on LinkedIn. But we'll get into that later. So the purpose of this podcast is to inspire, motivate, and encourage aspiring lawyers through the journeys and stories of other lawyers just like them. The aim is to humanize lawyers through their stories and remove, the frills and the misconceptions that come with being in the legal profession. The takeaways from this podcast episode are that your mindset is important. Okay, we're going to talk about diversifying experience, as Shivani would lay that out for us. We're going to talk about the importance of networking as a young professional. And lastly, we're going to talk about, or you're going to take away from this, the importance of having mentors in your journey as a young legal professional. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Shivani to the podcast. Shivani and I we're connected, I think, before she was recommended as a guest. So that was a nice serendipitous moment there. And we had a conversation in anticipation of this episode. And we pretty much hit it off, I think. And ever since then, prior to this recording, Shivani's been sort of my unofficial mental health check-in buddy. Checking in just to see that I'm okay, that I am getting my rest, and I'm not overextending myself helping other young lawyers. So that was really nice, because those kinds of mental health is a buzz topic in the profession now. But to have someone that you just met care for you in that way, that was very nice to experience. I was inspired, I think, initially by her drive and ambition. And I think age is no barrier to what you can achieve and how you're going to get there. You just have to have passion and have a heart for what you want to do. So I've been observing low key, not in a creepy way, but I've been noticing, and of course I was inspired by how much she's accomplished. And of course, how she got to where she is today. And of course, being a writer myself and a lawyer, I was impressed by her blog writing abilities as well. That's just one of her many talents, but it was nice to see another lawyer that engages in blog writing, which is nice. So the purpose of this interview is, like I stated, we want Shivani's story to inspire, encourage, motivate young legal professionals. So if you're somebody, whether you're in India or wherever you are in the world, I believe a law student is a law student and a lawyer is a lawyer. Like, the dynamics are pretty much the same. So wherever you are, like, we want you to be inspired, encouraged, motivated. Maybe you might discover through this conversation that law is not for you, and that's fine, right? So this is a resource for you, and of course we want you to take away practical and actionable pieces of information. So you must be inspired, yes, but you must be able to do something with what you listen to, right? So now I'm just going to allow Shivani to introduce herself. And then we're just going to slowly get into the questions and hopefully establish a nice conversation. So Shivani, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. So first of all, hello everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. I'm so grateful to be a part of this podcast. Like, so grateful to Lisa for having me, hosting me here, and Anthony for recommending me. Really appreciate it. That being said, I am Shivani Nair, and I am a lawyer. Currently, I work with a US-based immigration firm, which is in Chicago, but I work remotely for the Indian office here in Mumbai. That also being said, I have my own blog page, which is Shivani Speaks Legally. During the law school years, I founded this organization called the International Legal League, which is a networking organization for law students and legal professionals across the globe. And presently, with very recently, like in 2024, I launched, along with my other co-founders, we launched an organization, a firm, basically a legal firm, which is called Biz Internaglo. So Biz Internaglo helps influencers and digital creators with their legal rights. We help them with their drafting, the contract drafting, reviewing, sponsorship deals, brand agreements, and all of those stuff. Everything that's legal, all the legal nitty gritty stuff, but for specifically for influencers and digital creators online. So if you're an influencer or digital creator, please feel free to reach out to us on that. It's the good thing about that is it's a women-owned and women-run firm, and we recently, very recently, like just a few days ago, we just expanded to the United States, specifically in Los Angeles, with one of our partners heading it over there. So this is a virtual firm. It's completely virtual, so you do not have to spend your money to travel and visit an office. So we take up everything virtually. So that's the new project that I'm working on. Shivani Speaks Legally basically talks about law and lifestyle, and I post blogs. I post a lot on Instagram. You can see I'm a huge manifester. I manifest things a lot, and I talk about manifestation. I talk about law. I talk about everything that comes like basically under the law and lifestyle. So that's me. That's a little bit about me and the hats I'm wearing.
Thanks, Shivani. Yeah, that as you can hear, listeners, she's very, very busy woman. Much younger than I am, but very busy. I consider myself a latecomer to what I'm doing, but as you can see, she's already expanding her organization to I think it's Los Angeles.
Yes,
If I saw that post correctly, yeah. So that's like entertainment capital of the world.
That's exactly why we're establishing it there, because we're working with influencers. So of course we want to establish a place where there's more influencers.
I was quite pleased to see that. I mean, the organization is quite young.
That is true.
And to have people on board that can head up something in another country to boot. I mean, I'm always in favor of being a global player. So whatever talents and resources, knowledge, you might have to modify it for an international audience, but you can offer yourself internationally. So I was really, really pleased to see, in a big city like Los Angeles, that you've taken the organization there. So that's really nice. So Shivani, tell us a bit about your background. I know I sent you some questions and you answered that, but I think you mentioned that your your parents are both professionals and you have pets, and so tell us the whole 9 yards.
Yes, so my dad works with an organization here, and he was formerly in the armed forces. He's an associate vice president right now. My mom is a homemaker essentially, but she's a freelance photographer as well. So she does photography for hobby, for her business or whatever. So she's a freelance photographer. I have a younger brother who's presently in Canada, and he's a software developer. And of course, I have a pet dog. Her name is Zoe. She's a Labrador, a white Labrador. So yes, that's a bit about myself and my family.
That's nice. So, I mean, your mom's a professional, right? I was right. She's a professional. Being a homemaker is hard work. So
that is true.
It's nice that she gets to pursue her talent on the side. And I think we have a similar thing. That's how my brother is also into software development.
That's nice.
And and I like Labradors, so I think your daughter will get. So yeah, so that's, I mean, family of four, pretty traditional, right? The
Absolutely.
dad is the dad is the man at home, and there's all that stability and support. And so what made you decide to study law?
So I it started with me coming across an article on under trial prisoners by Amnesty International. So basically, I wasn't initially planning on doing law. I was preparing for my medical exams, and like I cleared them as well. So that was another thing. But if I decided that I didn't want to get into medical, and this was not something that I wanted to pursue. So after a little like going back and forth at home, I decided that I wanted to pursue law because that is something that I developed interest in over the end of my school years. So I decided that law is probably something where I would love to like explore, a field that I would explore. And to this till this date, I guess it is a decision that I'm really proud of, and it's something that I do not regret even one bit, because I absolutely enjoy doing whatever I'm doing right now.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's, I think for me, for me, law also was not my first choice. But I liken it to like an arranged marriage. I say, by the time you finish, by the time you finish studying it, you're like, I like this thing, so like you want to carry on, and you find that it's something that you do want to do, and you like fall in love with it
That is true.
after you made the arrangements and um gone through the motions of the wedding, I guess. And you're like, when you come to the end of your degree, you're like, I actually like this. So that's, I mean, that's nice, because I think if I can speak to our Indian audience, I think in South Africa and even in India, there's a lot of pressure from parents, right? Here we have the big five careers. We have chartered accountant, engineer, doctor, lawyer, teacher, um, and one more, I think I'm forgetting. But there's always that pressure for us to do any one of those high profile, and we have the intelligence to do it. I'm not saying we don't, but it's nice to hear it when you actually like, you say, I chose this because I wanted to choose it. So that's actually nice to hear. Um, so did you study anything else after law, or did you go straight into your internships?
So, how we have it over here is that we have a law school of 5 years, which is a combination of your undergrad as well as law school, which is the integrated law. It is, I
Mm-hmm.
had BLB honors, so it had BA and LLB along with the honors subjects. So that's one thing that I had. So every summer break, we had to do internships. So whether you work at an NGO, whether you work in the district court or higher court or Supreme Court, that's up to you. But every summer we had the internship opportunities. So that is how I got into internships. And towards the end of my law school, which was in like the beginning of 2022, which was like my last semester, I started working as a long-term intern for an organization based in Ahmedabad. And from there, of course, then I shifted to Delhi, where I started my practice as a lawyer, as a licensed lawyer, after enrolling myself in the Delhi Bar Council. So I used to work with a senior advocate over there for about a year, and now I've switched to the US based firm that I am in currently. So that's how it went. I did not pursue any further studies until recently, which is in order to like upskill myself, because I'm working remotely and I had the time to go beyond the 9 to 5. I decided to like upskill myself and apply to the Harvard Law School Executive Education Program for the Computer Science for Lawyers program, which is like you get access for like about a year. So it's like a 6 months to a year long course, and then you give assignments and all of that. It's more or less something related to legal tech because that was something that I was interested in. I still am, by the way. So I decided to pursue that, and like it has a lot of courses with regards to web development, cybersecurity, and of course intellectual property rights and all of those, everything that comes into play whenever you're talking about computer science for lawyers specifically. So that is where my education again, restarted, even though it's like a part-time thing. But yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
doing right now.
Okay, all right. So just for our international listeners, the
Yes,
Indian in India, you have a different qualification system. So you have short internships, so you can do many internships, like a month.
that
I
is
think
true.
it's a month long. Am I correct?
Yes, these are month-long internships, at least a month-long internship. So it's mandatory that you do a month-long internship, and then you can like, I mean,
Okay.
there's no upper limit, but yeah, it's a month long. So every summer break we do internships, and then after we complete 5 years or 3 years, whichever it is. Like if someone's already done with their undergrad, they go for the 3 year LLB, and if somebody is not done their undergrad, they go to the 5 years LLB, which is the BLLB or BBLLB, whatever it will be. So
Okay.
you get every summer break you get an opportunity to do an internship. Of course, you have to look for the places where you want to apply to. Sometimes the university provides you options, sometimes you look on your own, so it all depends. But yeah, this is more or less the way that every lawyer qualifies in India. After that, you enroll yourself in the state bar council and then give
Hmm.
the all India bar exam, where you get to where you become a licensed lawyer, like to be eligible to practice across all states in India once you clear the all India bar exam.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity. I think our system here in South Africa is different, and I think it will be different in other jurisdictions as well. So
That's true.
that clarity was useful. What I wanted to ask you next is, because we do have students, we will have students listening to this episode. So as a law student, right? So you said, if I remember correctly, you said you did the 5 year plan, and like, what was your experience as a law student? Were you one of those self-aware students with goals and a study timetable and only focusing on academics, or were you like the rest of us? Like we just went through the motions and we just didn't have a plan and we just, you know, slid from year to year, failed some things, and eventually we ended up on that stage in graduation. So tell us a bit more about what was your experience like and as a student in India, and of course how you navigated, you know,
Yes,
challenges, how you dealt with failure, if you experienced it, and things like that. So just give us some insight into your life as a law student.
absolutely, absolutely. So, um, when I started law school, in my very first year, I was not a very bright student. Like I was a pretty average student, and yeah, that this is my first year, by the way, because I'll tell you why. Because I had all my life I'd been preparing for the medical entrance exams, and I know nothing
Right.
of law, and the only reason I got into law was because of that one Amnesty International article on under trial prisoners. So, so I was like, okay, so this is what I'm supposed to do. Law seems interesting. I'll get into that, and then after that, when I actually got into that, I was like, okay, there's more to law than just Amnesty International article. So I obviously the first year was pretty difficult for me because I had to navigate so many subjects that I didn't know of, and usually it was the
Yeah.
subjects that people would prepare for their law prep exams. So I was pretty like confused on those subjects, and usually the professors would be like, "Oh, you must have already studied this in your on your law prep, or in your like, I mean, if you've done your 11th and 12th in humanities or something with a law major or something like that, then you must have studied it over there." And I was pretty confused throughout. So the first year was a disaster, I would say. But I picked it
Uh-huh.
up in the second year, and like I graduated at the top of my class in my second year, like in my third semester. So I would say that I did pretty well because I was pretty motivated throughout the summer break. I was like, I can't do this. I chose this for myself. I don't know what I was trying to prove at that point of time. To be honest,
Yes.
like I think there was something that I wanted to prove. So I went against everybody, everything, and chose this field
Yeah.
for myself. So I
Mm.
wanted to like kind of like prove to myself that I chose this for myself, so it means I must have thought about something and I must be good at it, right? So I chose this. So I put in a lot of hard work, and I didn't have, like, I mean, you say that study timetables and all of that. I never had those, by the way. So I never had study timetables, but yes, I was consistent. I used to take notes in the class, and like I think even my classmates can attest to this, that they used to take my notes for studying. So I was a pretty popular person in that in that regard. So my notes would be circulated throughout the classrooms, and I'm sure a lot of my classmates can attest to that. So I mean, this is something that I used to do, but I never really had like a fixed timetable. All I knew was that, I wanted to study. I knew when to study, and I was never the person who would study for like 15 hours or 6 hours, 8 hours. I could never do that. Never. For some reason, I used to look at people studying for hours and hours, and I thought, why can't I do that? But it's just that I used to pick out certain times, like three
Yes.
hours or something, and then just focus myself entirely in those 3 hours, and I'll be done with it. So that is a good thing. So
Mm.
I mean, I never looked back, and like I went ahead, and then I participated in competitions. So no, academics wasn't the only thing. Beyond academics, I had a lot of extracurricular stuff going on.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the COVID happened. So COVID like gave me an opportunity to like connect with people across the globe, and then that's where I founded like the International Legal League along with another co-founder of mine. So we founded that. I got the opportunity to network with lawyers and legal professionals beyond frontiers. So that's how that came into picture. My blog also came into picture during the COVID time period. I think when you're at home and you don't get out to meet people, social media is
Yeah.
probably place where you reach out to people, right? So it kind of taught us a big lesson at that point of time, and it really taught us to appreciate things even more. And
Mm.
that's one thing that I always keep into consideration. I mean, even after my first year was pretty sad, devastated, I would say, because it wasn't something that I expected, and I didn't want to like fall back and be one of those people, who would uh, fall back and cry about it. I mean, I did cry
Yeah.
about it. No offense, but no, not that I didn't. But then it's just that it was. I didn't want to like think about that for too long. I didn't want to think about the failures that I was going through, or
Yes.
there were a few classes where I just barely passed, and that kind of
Yeah.
like hit me. So usually, I think the only way I came out of it was because there was this one professor who came out to me, and she was like, she didn't bother looking at the other grades, but in her subject I sort of did well, and she just looked
Yeah.
at me and she said, I think you have the potential to do much better than like just this. So I think
Yes.
that encouragement that you needed when you just start out, the encouragement
Yes.
that you needed, it
Yeah.
especially from professors, I think that's something that is always like ingrained in me, and I'm like, okay, that one statement just like changed the entire trajectory of what I was planning, and I like switched my life completely, and that I would
Yes.
say. So
Yeah.
she was obviously proud of me after that, but she left the university as soon as I came in my second year. So I didn't have the
Mm.
chance to tell her, that I'm proud of you or all of that, because she changed her numbers and she transferred and all of that, and I couldn't find her. But yeah, I mean, that was a really, really like really nice thing that happened to me. And I think that's
Mm.
how it is. Like, you need somebody comes and tells you something, and you just there's like a light bulb moment, that just switches on, and you just like
Yes.
thing for a long time, and then finally like your eyes open and you're like, no, I have to change this. This is not how it's supposed to be. I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff at that point of time, and there was so many things going on, and then I decided, like, no, enough is enough, and I have to turn it back. So that's what I did in terms of just not just academics, but also in terms of like setting my personal goals, setting boundaries, being aware of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
protecting myself, my peace, and all of that. Of course, it's not like I was always like a people pleaser kind of person at that point of time, and then I would bend over backwards to do things for people, but I realized that's not how you do things. And eventually, like, you learn, you grow, and then you reach, like,
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
things done, right? So I mean, that's something that you come across. And after that, obviously, I was involved in a lot of extracurriculars and all of that, not just like in terms
Mm.
of articles, but like in terms of involving myself in dance, and I was part of the flash mobs and dance teams, etc. So that was also
Mm.
something I was doing, and then my own stuff was going on, like my blog and all of those, my Instagram page. So everything was just like casually happening on the side, and yeah, so that's how
Mm.
it goes. But then it's also like, if somebody can like make you, if that one statement can make you, there are also people whose statements really hurt you. Because I remember
Yes.
one of the persons just coming up to me and saying that, oh, okay, so you're doing this now, oh, in a very condescending manner. So I remember, like, there was this the one lawyer who just reached out to me and said, hey, oh, you got into this, oh, that's nice, how do you even get the time to do this, in a very very condescending manner. So
Mm.
implying that I was pretty much free and had a lot of time to do so many things. But it's just not, sometimes those words hurt you, sometimes you understand that they're just other people who have no access to your life, and then move on with it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all a part and parcel of whatever comes throughout. And they will be, I think law students need to know specifically that there will be people who will like push you down, no matter how good you are, no matter how amazing you do. Sometimes some people are just rude, and you have to accept that. So you don't have to like
Yeah.
always doubt yourself that you're bad or you didn't do something properly. Of course, there's always scope for criticism, and if you improve, um, well and good. And if they
Yes. Yeah.
constantly belittle you, I think that's a red flag. I would never stay in a place like that. And I didn't
Yeah.
that's something I'm proud of.
Mm. Yeah. I think as a student, when you go into the university world, you're out of that protection of school and teachers and parents, and now you have to function as an adult. And
That's
you
true.
know what you said about having that one person there to encourage you. I mean, I wish that were the norm,
Yeah,
but sadly it isn't. And you will do things like people pleasing and wanting to get good grades for other people's approval. And you will do things. I did that. We all did that because, especially in your first year, second year, you're finding yourself, right? You have to find yourself in this very academic and you know um, affluent environment, and you feel like a goldfish, you
that
know um and you have to make it work. And I think that's what you did. I know I did that. I know a lot of people did that. Like,
that is
you
true.
might have gotten stuck in first year.
Yes,
I know people that did very well in their, like, A levels, and here we call it grade 12. Sometimes they go to university and the first year is a shock because they don't do as well as they did in school.
that is true.
And then they have to pull their socks up and sort of um, acclimatize to the new kind of academic environment. So
That is true.
it's nice. It's nice to hear that you went through a pretty run of the mill student life. And I think like we have teachers in school that also believe in us. Like, they might take you under their wing. Like, for you to have had that person to just be able to spot your potential. And you might have it at the back of your mind, but sometimes when someone says it out loud, then it's like confirmation of what you're thinking, that you are probably on the right path, because here's this complete stranger like giving you this affirmation.
That
Um, so I mean that's something that you will carry with you. I mean, no matter how high you rise, you always remember that teacher, that professor, maybe that person in the grocery store who was kind to you and paid for your stuff when you had no money. That those kinds of people, like little like stars that just come in and leave quickly. I
that
think it's so important. I think at any stage of our legal journeys, like, and equally so, you mentioned the detractors,
that is
right?
yes,
And I experienced that, like growing my audience on LinkedIn. Um, you get those that want to push you out of the space, but they're not doing anything.
that is
Or they'll say like, "Oh, weren't you an advocate? Why aren't you practicing anymore? Why are you doing this?" And you can either take that to heart, or you can, buck the system and say, "This is what I have to offer,
that is true.
and I'm not backing down." So if
That
I'm
is
not hurting anybody, if I'm merely being a threat to someone's ego, then it's all the more reason for me to continue, right? So, and
that
as
is
you said, you can either learn from that experience, and I mean, the good part is on my end. I find a lot of people are copying me now on LinkedIn. They've
that is
stopped. They stopped, with the comments and correcting my posts and little insidious things like that, and now they're copying me, right?
yeah.
So, maybe I've started something good. So your detractors can also work out for the good,
That is very
wherever, and you're going to find them at every stage of your career. So, um, what I want to ask you next is like, what made you go into legal tech? Because legal tech is like the way to go now. Okay, the whole it's opening up a whole new sector of employment. And like you mentioned, you upskilled yourself, getting that um a computer science for lawyers course, that certification through Harvard Law School. And so what prompted you into marrying like your love for law with like being a digital creator and legal technology?
I think it started really early when I think when we had our first live session on behalf of International Legal League. So we had it with a lawyer based out of UK who's a legal tech lawyer. She used to make the products and the designs for lawyers basically. But I think that was an area that interested me. I didn't really, like venture into that until I had a conversation with other people and decided that, okay, this is an interesting area and I really want to know more about this area. So I ventured into that side. I obviously realize that legal tech is the go-to thing. I am not a very product designer person, but I am somebody who can like I'm not very innovative person, but this is something that towards the side that I want to implement certain ideas. There are certain ideas that I can provide with to streamline the law legal process. That is something that I was really interested and keen in. So I understood that legal tech is a go-to place. That also brought me closer to people in like the digital sphere. So that's also how I got into the social media law, where I
Mm,
do the work with the influencers and all of that. And I understood that there are a lot of things that come into play when you are involved in one field, and each field is like sort of linked with the other field, and you give them insights on that. You talk about streamlining, making process easier for them. For the influence, we don't just like do the regular contract drafting. We make sure to have our own set of softwares in place. So that's exactly how like I decided that I wanted to venture into this field, and I keep exploring. So my main job that I'm doing right now is with an immigration firm. So that's an area that I am doing. But then there's passion projects, right, that you do, that you are interested in, and you keep looking towards those passion projects, and you try to always upskill yourself. It's at every point of time you're always a learner and always a law student. You're never really, you can never stop learning. Law is very dynamic and it keeps changing, and as new things come forward, new stuff will come forward even more. So I mean, who would have thought of legal technology, like, let's say, even 5 years back? People were into
Yeah,
innovation and all of that. But now, after the whole COVID thing happened, everybody is jumping onto remote work. Who would have thought of like having remote work so frequent? Lawyers doing remote work would have was like so unheard of. So, but
yeah,
now it's like law firms running remotely. The law firm that we set up recently, that is running remotely. Who would have just thought, you could do that? I mean, everybody would always think you need an office for something, but no, I guess everything functions remotely, and the world is pretty small when you're connected on social media. So you reach out
yes, yes.
to anybody anywhere in the. You and I are talking. You're based in South Africa. I'm based in India. We're all just having the time of our lives online. So
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
some.
So
Yeah.
yeah, carry on.
No, I was saying I think that's something that really like got me into this. And I always, today I was having a meeting with my team, and one of the partner, the US partner, so she basically said, I always wanted a job where I could scroll through Instagram, and that made us laugh a lot because that's
Don't we
exactly.
all want that kind of a job?
Yeah, I mean, now that we work online and work all digitally, scrolling through Instagram is something that we do a lot. Helping the
Mm,
influencers, figuring out what's right, what they're doing wrong, guiding them through it, looking at the post before they post something, so that they don't post something that goes against the guidelines, not just Indian laws, but also guide against the meta laws, meta policies, etc. I mean, it's a fun thing to do, right? So
yes,
it's
yes.
very
Uh,
dynamic. Yes.
so you work for a US based firm that deals with
Yes.
immigration, right? So just to
Yes.
be clear, your legal tech stuff is your passion projects, and then
Yes.
your day job is as an immigration lawyer.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay. Just to be clear for our listeners, but I think it's so nice to have like we were chatting before we started recording. It's those passion projects that fuel what even now our motivation to do our day job.
That is true. That is
Like,
very
because we
true.
can't go often we can't explore our creativity, or we can't explore our ideas within the confines of employment, right? But
That's true.
nothing stops anyone. And I mentioned like how inspired I was by you being so young and just being so I would call you innovative for your for someone that's not as experienced as I am. But all you need is that drive, and you can start something that caters to what it is that you actually love to do.
That's true.
In I don't know what you call it there in India, but here we call them side hustles.
Yes.
Okay, you
Yes.
got these little
That is
side projects that
nice.
you're not getting an outlet at work. Like maybe you
Yes.
are a lawyer that loves to cook,
That's true.
so you start something, you start a little thing, maybe an Instagram, you start doing some reels, or you start doing something, and then your passion project, your side project, is an outlet for what you can't actually explore in your
That
day
is
job.
true.
you
Yes,
know
that is
and
true.
then of course it's even better when you become known for your side job rather than what you actually do for a living. So when someone says, oh, but you're a legal tech person, you also do immigration, like you become like famous for the stuff that you're passionate about. So
That is
I
true.
think that's really, I mean, I thought I found you out. I mean, I didn't really pay attention to the immigration part.
That is
But all the social media, the blog, and your Instagram presence,
that's true.
that's what makes that your passion project makes you visible. And so even for those that are listening, they might feel stifled in in their job. They might be practicing in an area of law that they don't necessarily like. They might want to explore something within that field, or something that you don't normally see combined with lawyering.
That is
There's nothing that stops you from starting something on the side.
That
And
is
it's amazing the energy that comes from that,
that is
because
very
now
true.
you now created your own avenue of expression. That thing is not locked up inside of you, and that often adds to your fatigue. It adds to your frustration. All of these like things that we are pushing down that we're actually good at,
That is
but
true.
we are denying it because we're saying no. But I'm a lawyer. Lawyers are not supposed to do that. Oh, I have a day job. Will I find the time to do this project?
That is
But
true.
when you actually do it, when you just, like the Nike slogan, right?
That
You
is
say, I don't have all of the equipment, I don't have all of the connections, but I'm going to start because this is something. I know
yes.
I'm a lawyer. I know I'm an immigration lawyer by day, but I want to be, a lawyer that does cooking reels on Instagram by night, you
That is
know. And then you find that because that has been let out of you now, and that's finding expression. People are starting to like what you're posting. Maybe you're posting recipes as well. And then you find when you go to your day job in the morning, it's like
that's true.
you have energy and you wonder, I didn't sleep that well, but I have energy. Why? Because after hours you were doing something that you were really passionate about.
That is true.
So, I mean, I'm not denying your skill and talent with immigration law, but I mean, I would like you to be more famous for like the legal tech side of things. You
I
know,
get it. I know I get it.
simply, simply as maybe as an avenue for others to come in, like with your networking facility. Like, I mean, you could uh, be a way for others to find their careers in legal tech through
That
your
is
networking.
that is
So I mean, this is your side job. This is just your passion project, and you don't have just one. You have a few. So I mean, this is something for those out there that feel like whatever you are passionate about might not be compatible with your career aspirations. Like there is a way to let it out. There is a way to unleash the demon in a good way, or unleash the angel. And you'll find that might start to make more of a difference than your day job. I know I certainly got a bit sidetracked with LinkedIn last year, but it
yeah.
started to get so much of traction, and like my actual work was like sitting on the back burner. Um, but this year, obviously, I have more intention behind everything that I'm doing, especially LinkedIn. But I mean, yeah, what you're doing now, and I don't think you're going to stop. I don't think you have unleashed all of the projects that I'm sure, like you said, you're not an innovator, but I never knew I was an innovator until I started to come up with solutions to problems. And
That is
it
true.
was just a case of, I know what needs to be done. I don't have the resources, but I don't have the skills, the qualifications, but I'm going to do it.
Definitely.
So you might be an innovator and not even know it. Um,
I think it's
yeah,
necessary that it doesn't matter if you have the resources or not. If you start something, if you start, just start it. I think the most important thing is to just start, and you'll figure out the rest as you go forth and go forward with it. I think starting is the first and the most scary step. I think is the scariest step, is like understanding that you have to start something, and people hold back on starting something new, people hold back on doing something new. But I think that's the scariest part, and once you're done with that, I think you'll figure the rest of the things out. So
yeah. With your story, I mean, you've done law for yourself. You've done it for you, right? You're
yes,
doing your passion projects. That's for you.
that
So
is
I
true.
think if you're doing it for you first, it shouldn't matter what people think, whether you have enemies, whether you go viral. It shouldn't matter,
That is true.
um, because you are, whatever happens in that space, whether you do become famous, it should all be incidental.
That is
But the main thing is that you're doing it for yourself, because for
that
whatever reason you want to create resources, opportunities, um, you know, and I think On that point, like you mentioned, in the questions that I sent to you, you spoke about, I think, building networks, right?
Yes,
Um, I said if you could give one piece of advice to aspiring lawyers, what would it be? And you said start networking early on.
yes, absolutely.
Grades cannot open as many doors as networking does. So maybe you can just like debunk that, or break it down, like for a student,
Yes, of
for
course.
a graduate. Like normally we think networking is like professional events, like you got to be a fully fledged practitioner, and you got to get invited, and like, so maybe just break down, like, I know your blog has a lot of resources. I read your networking piece, which I found very practical even for me. So maybe you can, obviously we'll direct people to those resources at the end, but maybe you can like break down, like make networking sound less fearful for aspiring lawyers, even for graduates, and entry level professionals. How do you go about networking? Obviously, there's your organization that has a facility, but in general, like if you take LinkedIn, like how do you start networking as a student, as a graduate?
I think you start with commenting on people's posts that you really like, and not just like a good post, oh wow, nice post, not those kind of comments. I mean, informative, actually engaging comments, comments that
Yeah,
want the author to engage with you. Like, I know that you do that, Lisa, and that's something that I really like, because I see a lot of people writing in, like, even I am guilty of that. I do like post a lot of, oh nice post, loved it, very simple comments. But whenever I see you commenting, you always take the time out to write a very detailed comment, because it shows that you've actually read that, and not just writing because you want to write. I know that every
yeah,
single comment of yours is very detailed. You've gone through everything that I've written, whether it's my post, whether it's my article. If you've commented on my post, you've read that post and brought out pointers from that. So these are the kind of comments that I think people can start with, instead of engaging directly with somebody who they want to engage with. There are a lot of times when lawyers might be busy and might not even respond back to you in your DMs, right? Or they might take a lot of time to respond back to you, maybe a week or so, a month or so. You never know that. The commenting is what keeps you engaged. The commenting is what brings you to the limelight. If you're worried that your comment will be seen by everybody else, just don't worry about it. Nobody cares about anybody else here. And it's a
yeah,
LinkedIn, it's a platform where everybody's engaging in a professional setting. So, of course, if you're going to comment, nobody's going to think about your comment for like the next few days. Somebody might come up to you and be like, oh, I saw your comment there, but and what about it? What about it? Nothing.
yeah,
I mean, what about it? So it doesn't really matter. I think the first step is to let go of the fear that people are going to see. Just let that go. And the second thing is, obviously, be very polite, be very respectful, research upon the person's background before reaching out to them. See if you have
yeah,
something in common with that person, right? If you don't have anything in common with that, find a spot, find a common ground, find something that's really that would want the person to respond back to you. I get so many weird DMs, I cannot even tell you. I hate those kind of DMs, but i i I kid you not. So people were applying to my so we had a vacancy in the place that I'm working at, right? So it's immigration firm. We had a legal coordinator vacancy, and I got a couple of people like messaging me, "Okay, oh, do you work with this organization?" And I was like, yeah, I do. So they're like, oh, how's the organization? I was like, it's pretty good. And like, I mean, what do you want to know? Is there anything specific that I can help you with? So they just directly messaged me, is there a position open for general counsels? And I'm like, I work for an immigration firm. What are you expecting here? I mean, that's just so weird, because, and then this is not just the first instance, it's just so many other stuff. People would come up to me and be like, oh, I see that you're working here. Will I get a visa? I'm like, why would you get a visa for working here? It's remote. I mean, and all of that. I'm like, it's very frustrating when people don't read about it and they just message you. And somebody just messaged me for a non, so we had a vacancy open for a business development intern as well. The person was supposed to be a non-legal person, and lawyers come up to me and they're like, I would like to apply. And I said, I mean, it's for not for lawyers. And then one lawyer just randomly goes off on me and he's like, what do you mean it's not for lawyer? You don't get to decide that. I was like, of course my firm gets to decide that. I mean, who does it? I mean, I mean, it's you don't get to decide whether you join my firm or not. It's very frustrating. And so law students, just don't put these kind of messages. Don't message people like that. Be very
Yeah.
respectful about what you message, and be like, understand, just have a thorough research on what they do. I know people came
Yes.
up to me and they were like, oh, so are you a lawyer? I'm like, yes, I'm a lawyer. Well, they just come up to me and they're like, uh what do you mean? I mean, it doesn't show that you're a lawyer. I mean, it's literally in my what do you mean it doesn't show it's on my lawyer? There's the very first thing written on my bio is like, I'm a lawyer. And how is that just not like visible? And I never understood how people don't even like open the profile of somebody that they plan on messaging. I mean, you obviously have the time to click on the message button. You can just read the header at least. But I guess I just
Yeah.
wired that way, I guess. And also, like, if you're attending like networking events in person, which I really recommend, I think some law societies or advocates organizations might have opens for events open for law students as well. So I think my best advice to you would be to go and talk to the lawyers. Don't feel intimidated. I remember I was attending an event where there were judges and justices and all of those, and Supreme Court
Yeah.
judges and all of those. And I was a fresh law graduate with no knowledge of what I was doing, no direction, nothing. And I was so scared, but I attended the event and I was so nervous. But I took up the courage and I went out, and now I have 3 pictures with 3 different judges. So I think that's what it takes. You just have to like be very like let the fear not determine your next steps. I think you have to go ahead with that and like be very courageous about things. And I know it can get nervous. And the one thing that I always recommend people is, if you don't want to attend an event alone, find somebody who goes with you. It's okay to
Mm.
take company with you. It's fine. At least
Yeah.
if you don't know the person, if you're nervous, this person will be there with you. you know so if you think that
Yeah.
I don't want to inform others about this event, or I don't want to tell people about this
You
event.
can take a +1.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, take a plus one. So I think it's really essential that if you want to, if you're really scared, if you're nervous, I think it's really essential that you take somebody with you. I always recommend everybody that don't go for events alone, especially if you're scared. Because if you're going to go somewhere where you don't know people, and you're going to either you leave the courage, either you have the courage and leave the fear behind, or you take
Yeah.
somebody with you who's able to give you a dose of motivation, like, okay, go here, I'm here, I'm right here, if something just messes up, I'm here. you know
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just take that first step, like I say. And networking always helps, because I tell this to law students: the earlier you are into networking, the easier it is for you, because I know that a lot of places still require referrals. And for sure, I mean, if your referrals are good, if people are ready to refer you to places, more than like they're worth more than grades, I believe. I have scored
Mm.
really good grades, but almost every single job that I've worked in, I've got it through referrals and not because of my grades. None of them
Wow.
were
Yeah.
because of my grades.
Yes.
So
Yeah. No, I think that's some nice actionable networking tips. I can't emphasize LinkedIn, link your LinkedIn presence, because I think what law students usually treat LinkedIn as is a job is a job search site, and what I'm always telling them is build relationships. Right?
yes,
Build relationships with people that you eventually may want to approach for a job. If you have a DM slide just asking for work, no one will give you the work,
yes, yes,
because that direct approach doesn't work. So You need to be commenting. You need to, then take it to next level. Maybe start DMing them, and then by the time you get to talking about work, you
That is
already have a relationship, so you can have the conversation based out of a relationship rather than please give me a job.
that's
And
true.
then of course, after you sort of master the virtual networking, you can scale it into in person, and like you're saying, take somebody with you if you're scared. And again, if you're going to go to those events, you want to not go there and ask for work.
That is true.
You want to go there and say, you want to go there and not hand out business cards. You want to go there again, you want to leverage, you want to build on maybe virtual relationships that you might have built. You want to build it better now in person, so you just go and have a conversation with the person, and it's all about relationship. Networking is not like a pool to get easy jobs. It's about relationships. So I
That's
think that's what law students, graduates need to keep in mind, is that before you actually, like you said, all the work you got was not via your grades, it was via references.
that's true.
So the earlier you start building those relationships and you start showcasing who you are and what you're good at, then you will get those opportunities via those people, being confident to recommend you. So that's priceless. And I think networking is not only for professionals, it's for anyone, in any profession, in any job, any occupation. You have to have your circle, you have to have your kind of
That's
where
true.
you have your support group, you have your colleagues there, and you must always be getting new relationships into your circle. So
That is true.
that's
Yes.
useful. And you mentioned the frustration of that DM slide and people not doing their research.
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
I
I
know
get.
that's not the
I,
ultimate that's
yeah.
not the ultimate test in life, but when
I know.
in your the questions that I sent you, I asked you how do you overcome, how do you overcome. I know the DM slides. I have to brace myself and not get angry, and then there's other parts of life that have challenges, like you come
That's
home and
yes.
something's wrong with the dog, or something's wrong with your partner, or your child is sick, or you got to take your parents to the doctor.
Yes.
And then what do you recommend as self-care? So you mentioned journaling and writing,
Yes. Yes. I love
gives you that
journaling.
release. So yeah, so maybe you want to just talk briefly on the kinds of writing that you do. Is it private journaling? Is it
Oh yes.
public writing?
No, it's a private journaling. I love to vent out. I think the God is my bestie. So the universe is my bestie, and I really act according to that. So I just write down a very long rant about something, or just write down something that I'm really grateful for, and try to manifest things into my life by writing down things I don't have but I would love to have them. It's all like a wish granting thing that I do. And at the end of the day, journaling is what you write down, whether you write down your rants, whether you write down what you're grateful for, but you write something down, you write
Yeah.
it down. So I do that. It's
Hmm.
very therapeutic for me. I love journaling, and I think people who are into writing and who love writing should definitely consider that. And even if people who don't love writing, I mean, they can always step into that. So
Hmm. Yeah, there's something about putting. I think it's way better than texting, like typing. You just put that pen or pencil. It's like the energy comes out through that pen or pencil, and the page takes the brunt of your words.
mm,
Um, yeah. So if our audience members are into writing, even if you're not into writing, I know I did. I used to journal when I was in high school, like religiously.
that's wonderful.
Every night, I think I used to journal. Um, and sometimes it would go. And life wasn't stressful then. Like just a little teenage activity. But as life, and as you are in the professional space,
Yes.
um, And in the questions that you answered for me, you mentioned ethical dilemmas,
That
you
is true.
know, difficult clients, difficult superiors.
That
And I'm
is
sure the working remotely has its own, is
that
its
is
own animal, you know, its own creature. So I mean, so it's got to come out somewhere. You've got to care for. Some people call it a brain dump, where you just get a
yes,
piece of paper and just empty your head on a piece of paper. So, I mean, I'm whatever works for people, but you know, for me, like lawyers and mental health, like I want to look after as many people as I can, or give them as many tips, because we have to self care. You know, we have to do something um, to decompress, because we have to be. I mean, we are first, you know, human beings, like we
that
said at the beginning. Like we have families, we have certain cultures, we have you know, religion. We come from a certain, you know, context, and
that is
and so those, you know, we have to be. If we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not going to be showing up for the rest of our life. You know, we're not going to be showing up for the other people, the other parts of our life.
that is very
And so if
true.
we're allowing the job to deplete us, if we don't know how to decompress, de-stress, and you know, whatever activities help us to do that, then we're going to be like compromised in those other areas, and we're going to find that your relationships suffer, and your, you know, maybe your spirituality might suffer, because you might not have time to meditate or to go to church or whatever it is that you do.
That is true.
And so, you know, it is possible, you know, through proper self-care, you
That
know,
is true.
habit. And again, like networking, the earlier you start with a self-care routine, the
That
better. Like I encourage the interns here. We call them candidate attorneys. I say leave a journal at the office. So at the end of the day, you just, I mean, you can hide it, but just, you know, put your whatever you have faced during the day, whatever happened at court, whatever a client said to you, you were upset, put it there. And or you can put it in your private journal at home, but never ever leave, like never let a week go by where you haven't processed anything. So like I think, maybe I don't know if you write about that, but back in the day I used to write for blogs about mental health, not so much for lawyers, but I think that's a conversation that I try to keep going. And
absolutely
whether
yes.
you're a writer or not, I mean, you can write up and tell people they can do voice notes into their phone, whatever works for you. You know,
That's true. Yes.
uh, you have to get it out, and of course, colleagues are always helpful, trusted
That is
colleagues,
yes.
um, where you can have like your own little ethics committee. I call it, like
That
where
is
you can say, you know, I have this gray situation. Like, what do I do? You know,
yes. Yes.
um, having sounding boards are also nice. So as we come to the end, it's hardly felt like a recording of an episode. It just felt like two professionals having a chat. But the nice part about our chat is that other people get to take away stuff, right? So, um, in my questionnaire, I asked you, how did you overcome professional challenges? You said hard work, grit, and determination, and
That's
never saying no to new challenges. And I think
absolutely
we brought that out, you know, um, in an earlier part of the conversation,
that
where
is true.
you've just taken on new things. And you know, hard work, they say work harder, not work smarter, not harder, but there's some element where you just got to put your shoulder to the mill, and
That is
you just
true.
got to put your head down and work. So I think hard work for students, hard work for young professionals, you never escape that element of hard work. You probably get
Absolutely
more
yes.
efficient at it, but that it must be there. Grit, I think
That
for a female, it has
that
to
is
be
yes.
fronted. We have a large capacity
That is
for, we have capacity to deal with a lot. Like, just that's why I say your mom is a professional, even though she's stay at home. But you
absolutely
know,
absolutely
the capacity that women have for caring for a family, for a home, for a partner, for children, for extended
Yes,
family,
yes,
you
yes.
know, and friends and all of that. I mean, grit is definitely a component, and determination and never saying no to new challenges. So I agree with that. Sometimes you just got to use the old-fashioned formula,
Absolutely.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, I was saying absolutely.
Okay. And of course, we're talking about hard work and grit and determination. You can never do all of those things in a vacuum, right? You can never. We're talking about self-care as well. If you're going it alone, it's always going to take a toll, right? And
That's true.
so the importance of role models, mentors. You mentioned that professor at college, right? You mentioned here, I mean, in the questionnaire that I gave you, you said your family are your role models, and
Absolutely,
um,
yes, they are.
I mean, there's no better, foundation for you to go into the big, wide world out there.
That's
They're knowing that you are rooted in your family, and of course, you have them there to constantly look up to constantly, get wisdom from.
that is
So
that is true.
yeah, so I'm not gonna ask you to pick favorites in your family. I think just in general, it's really nice to have that uh, foundation going in, and especially in the legal profession. I'm sure you would agree. Like sometimes you just need that objectivity also of some people that are not legal. Like, sometimes your mom might, not being a lawyer, she might give you some insights or wisdom
That is true.
that
Yes.
is not legal, that is not, she's not in the field, she doesn't know anything about it, but you say, wow, like,
Yeah.
you know, I take that. Like I never saw it like that. You also mentioned that you have mentors.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you said they know who they are, so hopefully you'll share this episode with them.
I will. I will.
Because
Yes.
so I mean, how did they, just to round off, like how did having all of these people like role models, your family,
I think it
even
was.
mentors in the field, how did it help you to
It was
stay,
essential.
stay I mean, they essentially helped you stay the course, right? Because
Yes.
none of
Yes.
us can pursue our careers alone in a vacuum. Because
That
there
is.
are times when we're gonna feel like giving up, right? So we've got to get our crew around us. So how did your family firstly, and of course professional mentors, like how have they propelled you to where
I
you
think.
are today?
I think they always kept pushing, and they asked me never to give up, and they were always there behind me. If I wanted to fall back upon them, they had me. If there was a time when I would say that I cannot do this anymore, then they would not ask questions. Of course, I mean they would ask questions why I don't want to do, but then there would be
Yeah,
not no condescending questions as to why not. So it was good to know that I always had the support of my family, the mentors. It's good to know that I could always reach out to them and ask them for their advices. I think that's something that I think everybody should definitely have a mentor in their life. It could be literally anybody. It could be the person that you're playing football with. As simple as that. It doesn't really have to be specifically somebody that you want to be like or want to look up to in the field of law. You obviously, it can be your colleague, it can be anybody. It's just having a mentor, having somebody in your life proves that you can there is somebody who's there to guide you if you mess things up, and there is somebody who will let you know, who will advise you how to clean up things that you messed up. So it's always nice to have people that you can always fall back upon. It's a wonderful feeling.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I certainly, I discovered that I have a passion to do that for other people during the pandemic.
Yes,
So for me, mentor is like a trigger word, and I get sparked when I see that word, and I'll be like, yes, I'll be a mentor. So, and again, like with networking, the earlier you get one, the better,
that
right?
is yes,
Because I mean, a mentor, and you said it can be anybody. I mean, whether it's even, very wise family member,
that
they can, they can basically, they should ideally be helping you not to make the same mistakes they did,
that is true.
right?
Yes,
It's
yes,
almost like a bit of a parenting role
that is
where they sort of give you the shortcuts, like in a nice way, so you don't fall into the ditches and things like that. So I mean, yeah, mentors from early on, role models. You can. It's nice to have your family as role model. I think a lot of law students, especially graduates, they tend to look at judges and you know high flying people, and I often say, you need to observe the person like properly. Like you can't just see them what they're doing professionally. Like
that is
they might not be nice people, right? But you're
yes,
only seeing like what is being posted or what's like up in the lights, in the
that,
bright lights. So when you're choosing role models as well, I often add that caveat to say, just be careful about how you choose and who you
that
choose.
is true. That is true.
Um, yeah. So hopefully our listeners, you've taken away from this podcast about your mindset, about how to diversify your experience, about networking, and of course about getting mentors early on in your legal
Absolutely.
professional journey. Um, I want to thank our guests, our esteemed guest, Shivani Nair, for her time and insights. I know it's very late where she is now,
Yes, but
but
that's okay.
she's given us her wisdom and shared with us her journey, and we're very grateful for that. Of course, you can connect with our guests off this episode. So outside of this podcast episode, you can find her on LinkedIn under Shivani Nair. Um, you can check her out at topmate.io. Shivani Speaks Legally. And you can find her at the same handle on Instagram at Shivani Speaks Legally. And you can start a conversation with her and hopefully take a relationship.
Absolutely.
Take the conversation that I've had with Shivani. You can benefit from directly from what she knows, and of course take advantage of any networking opportunities. And if you're into legal tech, you can also get involved. So I encourage you to have conversations and connect with Shivani
Absolutely, yes.
outside of this episode. Um, yeah, so thank you, Shivani. You want to say anything before I close the interview?
I think I would just like to say thank you so much, Lisa, for having me once again. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And I look forward to connecting with anybody who reaches out to me after this episode. And we'll stay in touch for after this episode. That's you and I, Lisa. So truly enjoyed.
Okay, of course. And just so listeners know what's coming up. So we have the next episode is going to feature Sean Jardine, who's the author of a soon to be released book called Ditch the Billable Hour. And he's going to share his revolutionary insights into law firms implementing value based pricing as opposed to billable hours, which we know has been the center of a lot of mental health conversations. So we're looking forward to having Sean on the interview and on the podcast rather, and we will advertise that as the time comes near. So thank you everyone for listening. And I hope this episode was inspiring. And you are welcome to leave us a review or give us comments on our episode. We always want to improve it and create a valuable experience for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Oh my gosh. I actually did.
I think it went
Uh,
long. Yeah.
I tried. I tried. I've been listening to other like good podcasts, like trying to see how they do it. And obviously, Diary of a CEO is like the podcast to emulate. So yeah, now I must go and I don't know any the first thing about editing, but hopefully hopefully this app will make it easy for me. But thank you so much, Shivani. I know it's late there and
Yes. It's
you're
almost
probably
11.
like working on US time as well. So
And I know, I mean, no, no, the time zone is Indian. Still, I get to work on my own time
okay.
zone. But yeah,
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll keep chatting. Um, yeah, we'll keep in touch, and of course, when the episode's out, then I'll send you the.
perfect, perfect.
Okay.
All
Take care,
right.
Shivani. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.